I want to start off this video with an apology. I'm sorry that the footage you'll be seeing of Killing Floor 3 in this video is going to look terrible. The minimum requirement for this game is a 1060, and I'm running on a 1070 Ti, so the best I can hope for is medium graphics, but if I'm playing with 3 or 4 people, I'm going to have to bump that down to as low as possible, also known as potato mode.
Oh my god, what's wrong with your face?
I'm so sorry, I was hoping to have a better graphics card by now, but the job hunt hasn't been the most fruitful, so I haven't been able to get a new graphics card. The game is actually supposed to look a lot better, but this video is about my experience, so I think using my own footage is probably the way to go. So the game looking bad here is entirely on me. Although there was a bright side to this. I was playing on hard with 5 other people and my game started running just a handful of frames. What you're seeing right now is what my game looked like. During the wave, I switched to the low settings and the game didn't crash. Now, while playing, I did have a few hiccups here and there, but the game never crashed. I also didn't really have any connectivity issues, so the game in its beta form feels pretty stable. With that said, there were many bugs I ran into. Thankfully, it was nothing that shouldn't be that hard to fix. I had a lot of visual bugs, like this one here where the weapons think that they're other weapons, and there's some weird things interacting with other stuff. Believe it or not, I actually have quite a bit of good things to say about the game. Not that I don't have issues, but there's actually a lot added in Killing Floor 3 that I think are actually pretty good improvements over the previous games. Things like the weapon modification. Now you can get attachments for your weapons. The way the system works is that you create a preset. No, not like that! And it'll be available at the trailer in-game. Obviously, you won't have a lot of options early on, and the game compensates this by offering you 2 random versions of each weapon. Every time you start a new game, those weapons are going to have different modifications. But there will always be one version of the weapon that has no modifications. And the prices do change based on what's equipped to it. This honestly feels like a really good system because if you were to do it in between waves, it feels like it would take a lot of time to do that and you only have so much time. So coming up with the designs before you go in is actually pretty great. You can even name them however you want. I really like this system. Now, in order to actually get the modifications, you just get them from playing the game, and then you have to craft each piece with stuff that you get from killing ZEDs. I can see how this could take away from some weapons, but I really enjoy it enough not to really care, to be honest. And on top of all that, each modification can be upgraded. Part of me was worried that each weapon would not feel unique, but they still do. The animations are nice and snappy, each shot feels impactful, but I have heard that some people say that the sounds seem really similar to each other. That's not something that I've really noticed, but if it is something that they're doing, I hope that they do change that. What's also nice is that each perk also has a secondary associated with them on top of the unique grenades. My favorite one is the one that belongs to Sharpshooter, not only because it's a revolver, but it can also freeze ZEDs, which is really handy. This is something that's entirely new to Killing Floor. While yes, there were pistols that were meant for Sharpshooter and Gunslinger, now every class has something that's gonna feel special for it. And it's important to know that you are not restricted on which pistol you can have. You can buy a different one if you don't like the one that the perk you have comes with. There's also this new system that allows you to buy stuff before you even start the match. I know some people don't like this feature. I think it makes sense given the lore in the game. You're now part of an actual military squad, so why wouldn't they equip you when you want to go in? Now, as for the primaries, they're all pretty good. I haven't found one that I didn't really like, but I would like to see more beloved weapons in this game. Like, come on, Tripwire, where's my boomstick? How about my Doomstick? There's also a lot of weapons in this game that are just not based on real weapons. And I know this game is supposed to be in the future, but I think there should be more well-known guns. I don't mind the sci-fi stuff, but I think it's good to have a balance of both. I mean, even in Killing Floor 2, we were using World War II weapons. Granted, this is a beta, so there could be things that we haven't seen yet, but I am worried. And that's something that's important to remember. This is a beta, meaning things here will be fixed and their whole hand may not be shown. And we know that they're not showing us everything, because if you look at the map screen, you'll see that there's supposed to be a bunch of different levels here, but we only have access to 3 of them. And they're actually pretty decent maps. They take advantage of the new mechanics added to the game, like having sentries you can activate or zip lines you can use. Some elements are even destructible and even have traps from Killing Floor 2, which is nice. The only problem I have with any of the maps that we've seen so far is the City Street map. It's very gray. Like, it's all gray. I looked it up and no, that's not because of my graphics card, it's just gray. Why are there 2 ways of spelling this word? Another environment that I think could use a little bit of work, but I think it's a really great addition, is the hub or camp area, this base of operations. This game takes advice from the same page as Back 4 Blood and decides to have a little area for you and your friends to hang out with before you start looking for a match. Really like it. I think it really helps cement the idea that you're part of a team. I would like to see some level of customization here, or maybe some little mini games or something. They even have a shooting range that you can go and use your weapons in. What's really nice at the shooting range is that the targets can move. By the way, I am working on a video for Back 4 Blood, and I have an interesting take on it that you might find surprising, so subscribe and ring the bell to be notified for that when it comes out. And speaking of the team, I think it's time to talk about the elephant in the room. The thing that I've been kind of putting off during this video, the specialist system. The specialist system for Killing Floor 3 is something that the community has hated since we first heard about it. And for good reason. It kind of turns Killing Floor into a hero shooter. No matter how much Tripwire denies it, it is basically a hero shooter. Just because you're not PvP doesn't mean it's any less of a hero shooter. And yes, I still think it's not the best idea, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't having fun. I can't lie, I'm unfortunately enjoying the abilities and the new leveling system. It's actually really fun. Do I forget to use my abilities? Sometimes. Do I feel restricted on what weapons I can use? Not nearly as much as I have in the previous games. But I still think that they should consider following in Dead by Daylight's footsteps and making it possible for you to allow characters to use perks and skills of other characters. Just make it so once you hit level 30, you can prestige like you could in Killing Floor 2, and then you're able to use that skill tree with a different character. Make those skills and abilities tied to the perk as opposed to the character. And I know they want to add more characters later on that are going to be slight variations of a perk. But why not then also take the time to name the perk something different, create a new logo for it and everything. Make it so that way each character feels like they're a unique member of the team that's teaching other members of the team. This is something that I went over in a previous video, and if you want to see that, I'll leave a link in the description, or you can click this thing in the corner to take you straight there. I saw a comment on a previous video where Chestnut246 stated that Gears of War 5 did something similar and they had to change it. Maybe that's why I didn't play that game that much. But I think that's a really important thing to take note of. If a AAA studio with Microsoft level funding can't make that system work, I don't think a company like Tripwire is going to have the resources to figure out how to do that. This system as a whole just feels really restrictive to character customization. While in Killing Floor 1, the characters were basically skins, in Killing Floor 2, they actually have a personality. They had unique voice lines and voice actors. This system does not let me play who I want to play. Although that does come into one of my other issues with the game. The characters themselves could use more dialogue. They don't talk nearly as much as they did in Killing Floor 2. I know some people probably didn't like how much they talked before, which is why Killing Floor 2 has an option to reduce it, but I wish that they did talk more, and I know I'm not the only one who thinks that. I have a few people I've played with who also think so too. On top of that, they could just use more lines of dialogue in general. And I guess I can't be the most upset about all this because, who's this? Because this ain't Foster. He's honestly really bland. Why did you guys change the voice actors? Did he want more money? Did he want an unreasonable amount of money? Because I'm sorry, this is not Foster. He's dull and he barely even talks. I know he's supposed to be a clone of the original Foster, but that shouldn't change his voice. I knew going in that he was going to have a different voice actor, and I would have been okay with that if the lines written for him were a lot more fun and in the style of Mr. Foster. But these are not at all like that. And I know some people don't main Mr. Foster and have other characters they really like and want to see them return. But in this beta, Mr. Foster is like the only returning character. So why is he so different? If you wanted to have a different character, why not just make a different character? Because you needed Foster because he's the face of the franchise? Yeah. So make him be the same person. Now I know this sounds like a nitpick, but the characters were one of the main reasons people had a problem with the specialist system. People don't want to be locked into having to play a specific character to use a specific perk or skill. But I guess since the characters are meh, it doesn't really matter then, does it? At least he has a pretty decent drone. His drone has actually saved my ass a few times and is actually pretty fun to use. I mean, yes, it is basically just push a button and then let it get like 20 kills for you, but it's actually gotten me out of a few tight spaces and has helped make the game really fun. You can even unlock upgrades for it that would make it even better. Oh, and man, the ninja's grappling hook, okay, that's a lot of fun. You get like 3 charges and they charge while you use them, and it has an AoE attack, but my favorite, by far, my favorite one is the Yondu arrow that Sharpshooter has. You start it and it just goes through a bunch of Zeds. It's really fun to use. It is amazing. Somebody on staff must have loved Guardians of the Galaxy because it's literally the arrow from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Enough nonsense, Ravager! Time to...
And if you've seen one of my previous videos about why I didn't really care about Sharpshooter in Killing Floor 2, this is a complete difference, all right? I love Sharpshooter here. If you want to see that video, I'll also leave a link in the description, as well as you can just click this thing up here. Sharpshooter is so much more fun to play in this, and I think they did a great job improving it. Obviously, I'm not taking any credit for that because I made that video so close to the beta coming out that there's no way that I had any influence on it. Now, speaking of those Zeds, honestly, they are really good. I really like the designs we've been seeing so far. They're so much fun to shoot, and I really wish my graphics card would let me see the dismemberment properly. I do get to see it, but it's not looking that great. Also, just a quick side note, when did we decide to get rid of dismemberment in games? Like, it's such a rare thing nowadays. We figured it out like 15 years ago, and then we just slowly stopped doing it. Same with destruction physics. And now here, the dismemberment actually does affect gameplay. You can take out Zed's legs and make them crawl, or take out their arms so they can't hurt you with it. You can even pull off glory kills. So Tripwire, where is my boomstick? Oh, and the bosses. Chef's kiss. Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I love all three of the bosses that were available in the beta. Like, I hope that there's more. I hope we see the Patriarch, Hans, and the Matriarch return, because those are, in my opinion, the three best bosses in Killing Floor 2. The Abomination, for me, I swear to God, had some kind of modifier where it shows up more, and I'm just sick and tired of fighting it. Same goes for the King Fleshbound. It's a little too plain. Of these three bosses, the Queen Crawler is my least favorite because it's the closest to the Abomination. But with that said, I still think it's probably better. But that could just be me having fatigue from fighting that damn thing so many times. Oh, fatso. I'm so tired of the little monsters that you send at me. Now, between the Chimera and the Impaler, I think I prefer the Chimera. I mean, its design's a little interesting, but I think its attacks are really cool. Now, the Impaler, I think, is just a straight up interesting design. Like, I love the Chainsaw Man head that's got going on there. What I am a little confused about it, though, is that why is it that sometimes you fight one and sometimes you fight two? That's something that I am concerned about. But other than that, I think these are all great bosses to fight against, and I'm pretty happy about them, and I want to see more of what's to come involving the bosses in the game. Please! We need to have the Patriarch. I mean, we got Foster, so why not the Patriarch? I mean, we even mention him by his actual name in the game. Now, while a lot of the Zeds got significant improvements, there's one Zed that seems completely absent from the game's beta, the Stalker. I didn't see her anywhere in the game. Come to think of it, I don't even think we even got a reveal trailer for her. Like, I know she's supposed to be invisible, but it seems like she's completely absent here. I wonder if she was removed because they didn't really know what to do to her to make her seem more dynamic. I mean, think about these invisible bitches in Killing Floor 1 and 2. In Killing Floor 1, they usually got dispatched before they got too close, mainly because they walked the same path as every other Zed. And in Killing Floor 2, they did try to flank you, but they weren't very effective. I would like to see them return in some way, shape, or form. Oh, and the EDAR are completely gone. Some people are probably going to be happy about that, though. I know a lot of people were not happy with the EDAR's inclusion because it was too sci-fi, but with the game taking place in the future and having a lot of these sci-fi weapons, I feel like their inclusion would make more sense now. Maybe they're looking to make them more dynamic as well. Something that I haven't mentioned verbally yet, but you've probably noticed throughout this video, is that they made a change to Z time so that way the player no longer is slowed down. At first I wondered if this was a good choice, and then I thought about all those moments when I played with other people and I was either just walking in slow motion or reloading in slow motion. You do lose those moments where you fire your shotgun and you slowly rack the next shell, and it just feels badass, but you know, I think I would rather be able to just move normally as opposed to the 9 times out of 10 being slowed down for no reason. Now, before I talk about the last major issues I have and some of the remaining nitpicks, I would like to say one thing. If you'd like to help towards the Caboose Graphics Card Fund, consider becoming a channel member. I had the opportunity a year ago to open up memberships to this channel, and I decided to put it off because I wasn't very consistent with my uploads. Lately, I feel like I'm getting a lot more consistent, so I want to go through with this. I hope the rewards and tiers are good. I want to make them a little fun as well. Also, if you're looking for a new pair of glasses, you can use my Zenny link in the description to help out the channel. I really want to get those VR prescription lenses, so that way I don't have to wear my glasses when I use my VR headset, because I am tired of my eyeballs touching my glasses every time I try to play Into the Radius. What a great way to segue into this game's monetization. Now, it didn't do the stupid thing that Multiverses did and have people use real money to buy a battle pass in a beta, but they did give us some premium currency to use to get the battle pass they have here, probably as a means to test it. So let me give you my opinions, Tripwire. I get why they have a battle pass, but I'm paying already at least $40 for this game. So why is this here? This isn't a free-to-play game. There needs to be some level of customization here to start with. I'm paying for this game up front. I should be able to have some level of customization already in the game, whether it's already unlocked or I have to earn it. In fact, I would prefer if I have to earn it. At least Halo Infinite had the benefit of saying that it's a live service free-to-play game. In previous Halo games, there were armor customizations in the game that didn't require DLC. Even in Halo 4, this was the case. I would say Halo 5, but honestly, I didn't care enough about that game to remember. While for Halo 4, they did end up adding DLC for armor customizations, there were already customizations that existed in the game. Granted, they all look terrible, but that's just my opinion. Maybe this is because it's a beta. I hope that there's at least some level of customization that's in the game without payment. Now, I seemingly remember them saying that they want to add characters for free into the game, and I'm guessing that also includes maps and weapons, just like in Killing Floor 2. At least at first. Eventually, they did have to do the paid weapons thing, and people didn't like that, but at least the maps were still free, and they still gave us some free weapons. And while this battle pass, like many, does offer you your money back and then some, it is full of these stupid, ridiculous nameplate things. There's so many of them, and each one of them has a version that just has more blood on them. These don't feel very rewarding to get. They really don't at all. By the end of the battle pass, you're just gonna have 100 of them, and you're just gonna only use a handful of them. I hope at least we don't have to worry about the passes being temporary. That's a feature I hate on every battle pass, and I think we need to just get rid of that. Say what you will about Halo Infinite, but they had the right idea by not using FOMO. And now it's time for the nitpicking. Although I think this first one isn't really a nitpick. I don't really care for this new healing system. First off, it takes your guy way too long to stick themselves. I've died in this game twice as a result of them taking too long to inject themselves. But having it where you only have a limited amount of syringes, why? But why? I get you're spicing up the gameplay a bit here, but now we have the problem of I'm playing solo, I only got like 3 syringes. Can I have more, please? There are skills that you can unlock as you level up that will give you more, but something about having a limited amount and having to pay for them, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. I mean, there is the added benefit of making every medic a lot more useful, but it's not like healing yourself makes you feel overpowered in the previous games, so I'm not sure why this needed to change. Maybe it's because they added this whole getting downed mechanic, which I actually kind of like. You can move, you can shoot while you're downed, and you just gotta get revived. I guess if you had the infinite uses of the syringe as well as this mechanic, then maybe it'd be too overpowered. I'm not sure. Maybe there's a healthy balance that I'm just not seeing, but I'd like to know what you think. Here's a nitpick that's really easy to fix. Can you make it so that way when the character speaks a different language, I know what they said in that language? Having a subtitle says speaks Spanish or speaking Urdu, why even have the subtitle then? You could at least have the spelling of the word in its language and then the translation next to it in brackets or something. They already don't talk much, so I would like to know what they're saying. A common complaint that my friends have had is that they think that the shop's UI could use a lot of work. I personally don't have a problem with it, but I do have an issue with the UI somewhere else though. When it comes to creating a preset weapon for your loadout, you can't see what the mod does immediately until after you've already crafted it. Like, yeah, it does tell you what percentage it changes, but you won't see how that will affect the status bar of the weapon. This might not seem like that much of an issue, but it's kind of weird not being able to see that change before I apply the mod. There's no repercussions to this, mind you. To me, as a payday player, it just feels like a strange choice. Here's a nitpick that I think can be easily fixed. While on controller, there are two different buttons. On keyboard and mouse, the dodge and the sprint are the same button. This becomes a problem when you're trying to dodge in certain scenarios, and instead you just end up kind of sprinting in one direction. It's kind of frustrating because I wasn't able to properly dodge when I wanted to, or even use it as a mechanic, because if it's so unreliable, I'm not going to use it. Lastly, there's something incredibly important I need to know. Something huge. Something that Tripwire needs to address more than anything else involving Killing Floor 3. Something that massively concerns me is that I didn't see a trace of a server browser. Now, I know it's a beta and they're testing the connectivity, but my worry is that they won't have custom maps. If that is the case, then everything that I've said in this video doesn't even matter. That one aspect of Killing Floor, in my opinion, is one of the most important, if not the most important, fundamental things about the Killing Floor series. Custom maps are so important to Killing Floor's identity, in my opinion. It's become a core factor since the beginning. Killing Floor 1 was an amazing game that everyone I introduced it to loved, but what really made it so memorable was those custom maps. Doom 2 Entryway and the gas station are some of the most important and well-known unofficial maps in the game. There were servers that only played these maps on a loop. The devs themselves have previously mentioned how important custom maps are to the franchise. Community-made maps are the reason why the crawlers in Killing Floor 2 didn't crawl on walls or ceilings like they did in the ads. This is because they were worried that it would make custom map creation harder and make map makers reluctant to make maps. Hell, some of the custom maps that they made were made into official maps that were added to both games. They even credit the original creators and held contests for map makers. Custom maps really helped keep Killing Floor alive throughout the years. This is something that goes back to early Killing Floor 1, even before Demolition was added to that game. People were making maps for it. I think I've spent more time playing custom maps than official ones, and I know I'm not alone in that. So when I say that this is the biggest concern for me with Killing Floor 3, I mean it. Everything else, as the game stands, I'm enjoying it. I just kind of want to see more of a few things and some bug fixes. Also, changes to the specialist system would be good, but I know they've acknowledged some of these things with a recent tweet. But this right here is the make or break for me. If there's no custom maps, if there's no modded maps, no community made maps, whatever you want to call them, then Killing Floor 3 is going to be dead on arrival. I have faith in Killing Floor 3, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that. But until the game comes out or we hear another announcement, we won't know for sure what the plan is. But until then, we'll just have to wait patiently for when the game comes out. Hopefully the game will be delayed and they'll put a lot of fixes in and rework things and obviously improve this specialist system. But until that day comes, all we can do is drink plenty of water, stay hydrated, and remember, I love you! Bye-bye.